everyone, my name is Dylan Adams, and for today's video I have a very special announcement for you. I am so excited and honored to tell you guys that I now have my very own signature slide made by the Rock Slide. They're available right now. You can buy them at the link in the description of this video down below, but before you go do that, stick around because I'm going to demo the slide for you and talk about what went into designing it and why it is the perfect guitar slide for me. So first of all, if you've never heard of the Rock Slide, they are a company based out of Spokane, Washington, owned by a guy named Danny Songhurst, who is first and foremost a guitar builder, but he also has this whole line of slides that are some of the best being made in the world today. His metal slides are made of solid machined brass, and they just have a certain precision and solidness and fine, high quality feel to them that I haven't found in any other slide. He also makes glass and ceramic slides as well, but the main trademark of the Rock Slide is that their slides have a tapered interior, and they have a couple special sort of carved cutaways that make the slides much more ergonomic and easier to control. Over the years, I've tried so many different slides from boutique companies, typical store-bought companies, actual vintage Coricidin bottles like Dwayne Allman used, and I have just always had the hardest time finding a slide that ticks all the boxes for me. But the Rock Slide is one that I would always come back to. I particularly like the Joey Lander signature model and the standard small model. And while the standard Rock Slide models are some of my favorite guitar slides being made, there were always a couple little small things about them that weren't quite right for me. So late last year when Danny, the owner of the Rock Slide, reached out to me about making a signature slide, I could not have been more excited and honored and honestly just in disbelief, and I still am. This is my first signature product ever. It's the first thing to ever have my name attached to it, and for it to be something as personal and crucial to the way that I play as a guitar slide, and especially to be made by, in my opinion, the best slide company in the world right now, is so surreal and such an honor and just so exciting. And I just could not be more stoked to finally share these things with all of you guys. So, what makes my signature model different from the other Rock Slide models? Well, the first and most obvious difference is that it has a double cutaway. If you look at any of the standard Rock Slide models or any of the other signature models made by them, they have a single cutaway at the back end of the slide that allows you to bend your finger inside the slide, which, in my opinion, and clearly in Danny's opinion, is the best, most natural sort of hand position for playing slide. And that cutaway allows you to do that without the slide digging into your finger, because if you look at a normal slide with a flat edge here, it's digging into the side of my finger right there, which isn't the most comfortable. So that cutaway design is awesome, but the one issue that I had with it is it only gives you one playing surface on the cutaway side. So for one, in the heat of the moment on a gig, when you have the slide in your pocket and you're in the middle of a song and you just quickly reach for it and go for a slide solo in the middle of a song, there's a 50-50 chance of whether you're gonna end up with the slide positioned so the cutaway side is facing the right way to allow you to bend your finger. So the double cutaway design means you have a higher chance of the slide facing the right way when you just in the moment grab it and go to play a solo. Another benefit of it for me personally, and this may just be a me problem, but whenever I play slide, I must be just kind of hard on slides, like I'm kind of rough with them or something, because I always end up getting these little kind of dings and pock marks and little chips in slides regardless of what the material is in a pretty short amount of time. So a slide with only one playing surface wears out pretty quickly for me and starts to feel kind of scratchy on the strings. So the other benefit of having two cutaways is you have two sides of the slide that you can use, and in theory, it'll last a lot longer for that reason. Another key feature of my signature slide is that the inner diameter is slightly smaller than the Rock Slide standard size small models, but it's a little bit larger than their extra small model. So it's right in between that small and extra small size, which is the perfect size for me because I personally have really skinny fingers and a lot of slides end up being too big for me, even if they're designed for wearing on your pinky. But the extra small by the Rock Slide is just a little bit too tight and snug. I like to have just a little bit of wiggle room in there. So we made it this perfect in-between size for my fingers and hopefully for a lot of you guys who have that same issue where small is a little too big, extra small is a little bit too small. Another feature that makes my signature slide unique among the Rock Slide lineup is that it has a more gradual taper to it than the rest of the models. So like I said before, every Rock Slide model has some sort of taper to it. So the standard models start out thinner on the side that you put your finger into, and they get progressively thicker as you get towards the front end of it where your fingertip is. And it's going to be really hard to capture on video, but the standard ones have this extra thick sort of lip on the very end of them, right where your fingertip goes. So they gradually taper and then all of a sudden get really thick at the very end to sort of grab onto the tip of your finger. And while this is a very smart design, personally, it never quite agreed with me. I never really liked the feel of having that extra little bump on the very end. And it kind of makes the standard model slide a little bit top heavy for me. So my signature model does not have that extra thick lip on the end of it, and it's a smoother, more gradual taper. So it still does get thicker on the end that your fingertip is at the front end of it, but it's much more gradual and you're not gonna feel any kind of bump or lip inside. It's just one smooth, solid surface throughout the entire inside of the slide. It makes it a little bit lighter overall, and to me, it makes it a little bit more balanced, so it's a more even weight throughout the whole length of the slide, which feels better to me. One consequence though of not having that extra thick tapered front end of it is that we couldn't put a finger rest on it like the standard Rock Slide models have. There's just not enough metal there to allow for that extra little carve on the end of it for your finger to rest, but that's okay with me. It still feels good without the finger rest, and you know, I grew up playing slides without them, and so it's not the end of the world for me to not have that. It's going to have a little bit more of a kind of classic traditional slide feel. It's a little simpler than some of their other models, but it still kind of has those signature elements that make it a Rock Slide model. So another aspect that's kind of custom about it is the length of the slide. So like I said before, my previous favorite models by the Rock Slide were the standard small and the Joey Landreth model. And the only difference between those two models is the length. The inner diameter is the same. They have the same cutaways and carvings and stuff. The Joey Landreth one is just a little bit longer. Personally, I always felt like the Joey signature slide was always a little bit too long for me, and I personally never really play full chords across all 6 strings with the slide, so having that full fretboard width of the slide doesn't really matter for me, so it's just kind of excess there that I don't need. So in that respect, I liked the standard small model a little bit more because it's shorter and just kind of fits the length of my finger better and feels a little bit more maneuverable. But there were some times where it would feel like my finger was kind of almost hanging out of the end of the slide a little bit. So we just bumped up the length of my signature slide just a tiny bit. So I have just the teeniest little bit of room in there past my finger, but it doesn't have all this excess length that I don't need. And lastly, my signature slide has a rounded over front edge to it, which is a fairly new feature for the Rock Slide. Most of them that are not the Balltip versions have just a very hard flat edge. You can see in the comparison of the Joey Landreth signature slide next to my signature, which I feel like the rounded edge just makes it feel slightly smoother, kind of gliding over the strings, and it just kind of makes it just sort of roll over those strings a little bit better. And by the way, I just have never really been a fan fan of the Balltip slides. I've tried them, but I don't know. I can't really describe why I don't like them. I just don't like that rounded edge. I just prefer the precision of having that cut off end there, but I like having it rolled over a little bit. So I'm pretty sure my signature model is going to be the first one to officially have that slight little round over on the end there. So that's the rundown of my signature slide. Again, I am just so excited and honored that this exists and that it has my name on it. It's just so surreal, and I can't wait for you guys to try them out. Let me know what you think if you get one. And if you do, then thank you so much. It means so much to me that you would be willing to purchase something that has my name on it that I helped design. Huge thank you to Danny Songhurst, owner of the Rock Slide, for reaching out to me and even noticing me, knowing who I am, and being willing to make a signature slide for me, with me. Like, it's just the most surreal, coolest thing ever. Just thank you so much, Danny. Oh, and one more thing. I'd like to thank my friend Leah Rubin for designing the label art on the packaging. She's a graphic designer. So if you like the way the label looks and you need some graphic design work done, then definitely hit her up. I'm going to put the link to her Instagram in the description of this video down below. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you in advance to anyone who decides to purchase my signature slide. It means the world to me, and yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.